Hey, I'm Kathy from Simply Sustainable Ideas, and today I'm going to talk to you about home composting because I feel like right now a lot of people are indoors and we're sort of exploring what we can do and without having to go outside very much because we can't, and trying to make the most of what we've got at home and thankfully reusing as much as we can. So this video is all about home composting. I know in certain places, like in bigger cities, there are schemes set up where the councils will actually take away your food waste, and there are slightly different rules for that. So this is just purely what you should and shouldn't put into your home compost. Huge variety of options for what you can have to put your compost in. You've got options where they're raised off from the ground, where they're against the ground, or even where it's a bin inside, depending on your circumstances and the space that you've got. But yeah, I mean, take a look and see what works best for your lifestyle. But the main things to consider when you're looking at composting is what you put in there. So it's incredibly important to we're obviously trying to reduce attracting rats. So the key things to not put in would be meats, bones, and I'd also avoid eggshells. For a start, eggshells take quite a while to break down. So unless you're sort of like really pounding them, it just might take a bit too long for you. Plus it is something that can attract rats as well. Other things to avoid would be anything that's got chemicals in it. So you may have seen things that say that they are 100% degradable or that they are compostable. I have an example here, something like these, which has this sign on it that says that it's compostable. Yes, by all means, it probably is, but a key thing to be thinking of is that something that you might want to be eating at a later date, or is that something that you want to impact what it is that you are going to be eating? So it's going to go directly into your food chain if you're using that compost to help grow a garden, for example, or to help like with a vegetable patch type thing. So if you do have things that are compostable or degradable, what I would recommend you do is have a separate bin that is purely just for those items. They will break down over time, but it's just not really something that you would really want to put in with your fruit and veg that you're going to be growing later. And the main reason for that is I don't know the exact ingredients that make up that compostable bag, so I don't know if there have been any chemicals or anything that's been added to it in order to get that structure. So yes, it might break down after a certain period of time in certain conditions, but it's not something that I actually want to open up and have into my food chain. The same with degradable. It's a huge green herring of a word, biodegradable. Yes, it might degrade, as in break down, but what you'll find is that you'll go from this bigger piece of plastic and basically it's now going to break down into lots of smaller pieces of plastic, which again, I don't want to have anywhere near my food. So if I was going to keep this, I'd ideally try and use it as often as possible or give it back to the company that sort of gave it to me. But if I could, I would, or if I did want to try and compost it, I'd put it in a separate bin away from what I would be using in the garden. Things that are really good to put in your compost: tea leaves. Even if you are using bagged tea, rip open that bag and save the tea particle, the bits in there to put into your compost. Coffee grounds, all of those fruit and veg scraps, they are just perfect, just throw them in. But other items are going to be needed in there as well to help get the right balance in order to help break them down more. And again, I'm not the scientist, but you can get all of the details online. It's simple enough. But the things that you can put in would be bits of cardboard that you've got. So that loo roll, instead of putting that into the recycling, you can actually now get a better use from it. Egg cartons, these are great. Just rip them up, make it all a lot smaller. So again, it's a lot easier to break down or be quicker in the breakdown process. You can put things like tissues and kitchen roll in as well. The things that I would say when thinking about putting anything into your food compost is, have there been any chemicals nearby? Is it a chemical that potentially you want to, get into the food that you are trying to grow from this compost? If the answer is yeah, it's fine, that's great. Pop it in, just make sure you rip it up as small as possible before you put it in. If the answer is, oh, I don't know what's actually in that, then I would say avoid it. And again, if you've got that separate bin that you can set up that's going to have those compostable items, put that in that bin. So then you're not wasting it, you're reducing it, you're getting rid of it. It's not going to go into landfill and release methane gases, etc. You are actually trying to do something to help break it down, but you're doing it in a more contained place that isn't going to impact your own food chain, as it were. So, main things to avoid: meat, eggshells, meat bones, and then things like anything that's got chemical, anything that says that it's compostable, unless you know what's made, what makes it up, anything that says it's degradable or biodegradable. Please avoid all of that stuff going into your own home compost if you are going to be using it to help grow food. Things that are really good: kitchen roll, as I say, if it's not been near chemicals and you're happy to eat or potentially have whatever it was that you wiped up with it in there. Loo rolls, bits of paper, avoid paper and magazines, egg cartons. Again, just think about it this way: if you've got something in there and you're not sure about it, yes, technically it probably could be composted, but just think about what it is that actually makes up the item that you're trying to put in there. So for example, if it is paper and it's got ink, what made up that ink? If you don't know, please just try and avoid it and instead put that into the recycling scheme, because they will be able to better handle it. So hopefully that will help you with some quick things to avoid and do with composting. Follow the guidelines for whatever your individual composter also suggests, because there is going to be a balance of how much, cardboard, etc., you put in versus the amount of food that you put in. And also you might need to spin it and do some fun stuff with it. But hopefully the key things to avoid and what you can and can't put in are a bit clearer. If you do have any questions, give me a shout. I'd love to hear it. I'm more than happy to talk a bit more about it, because I love the idea of being able to compost food scraps, and I just want to make sure that we're all thinking about it a little bit more as well, about what it is that we're trying to compost, and we're not going to be swayed or, I don't know, thinking that something's okay to put in the compost when actually it's a bit of a green herring. As I say, it's a word that isn't quite right. So with that, good luck, happy composting, and great green fingers, I guess, which is a double thing. Green, yeah, anyway, goodbye, good luck.